Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, we don't always agree on everything, but I am hopeful that we can try to find some common ground when it comes to permitting. I think we all can agree that promoting an efficient permitting process and advancing the build-out of infrastructure is critical to achieving energy security and reducing energy costs for the American people. It's especially true, I believe, for clean energy and other large-scale grid infrastructure across the country. And to accomplish this goal, we need to fully fund our agencies to ensure that they have the expertise and the resources to complete efficient environmental reviews. We also need to be early, upfront collaborators, engaging in communities, setting projects up for success. I am a recovering environmental attorney, and I have seen firsthand in my career how early and effective engagement doesn't slow down the process, as some might believe, but often can help projects identify and solve potential conflicts early on in the process. For several years, I've championed something called the Public Land Renewable Energy Development Act, PLREDA, which would direct our federal land managers to conduct programmatic reviews to engage communities in renewable energy development early before conflicts could delay a project. I've additionally introduced legislation with my friend and colleague Sean Casten, the Clean Electricity and Transmission Acceleration Act, which would address the real permitting issues, preventing us from being able to build out our electricity grid to meet increasing energy demand from things like new data centers and manufacturing facilities. This type of legislation, I believe, demonstrates it's possible to make our permitting system more efficient without sacrificing key environmental or community protections. I'd like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record this report from the National Resources Defense Council, which details how, and I quote, the NEPA process has saved money, time, lives, historical sites, endangered species, and public lands while encouraging compromise and cultivating better projects with more public support.
Without objection.
This report details over 50 case studies from across the country where the NEPA process actually improved projects and resulted in better outcomes for local communities. Smart from the start planning, like programmatic reviews, can make crucial public input go quicker and smoother. Programmatic reviews, including the recently finalized proposed update to the Western Solar Plan, will allow agencies to work with stakeholders to identify lands that are suitable for development and those that aren't, reducing conflict and possible permitting delays down the road. Turning now to my questions, Ms. Reams, would you agree that permitting goes more smoothly when local communities are on board?
Absolutely. Early engagement is very important.
Well, I would say, first of all, I agree with you. I would say that the bills before us today would really weaken the process for local communities to participate and collaborate in the permitting process. You know, I firmly believe that we've got to accelerate our build out of infrastructure. I think that's particularly true for clean energy and transmission. Would you concur with that?
I do concur.
And I think we can achieve this by ensuring our agencies have the resources and the capacity to permit projects quickly, by adopting more programmatic reviews to help streamline permitting, by improving transparency in the permitting process, and by encouraging engagement with communities early and meaningfully. Would you agree with all of that?
I would. I'm sure it's packed with details, but yes.
Always the devil's
Always
in the
is.
details. And it's important that we have that dialogue. We don't just talk over one another, but we have that dialogue. Unfortunately, the discussion draft that I see today, to me anyway, seems to be a far cry from what this moment really needs from a permitting perspective, permitting reform, which is bipartisanship. What I see before me today would undermine responsible permitting processes, would tip the scales in favor of the project sponsors and private profits rather than the public interest, would drastically subvert the ability of communities to seek judicial review to ensure accountability when a project has a substantial impact on the health of our environment, frontline communities, or climate. But look, I remain hopeful that we can work in a bipartisan fashion on permitting reform, particularly to address issues unique to renewable energy and transmission infrastructure. But sacrificing our environment and sacrificing our local communities to polluting industries to do their bidding, like this legislation appears to do, simply should not be the price for improving government processes. Thank you, and I'll yield back.